Okay, good morning. It's kind of weird to speak with the microphone in such a small space, but I'll do my best. Everyone had a good sleep?
Yes.
Yeah? Yeah, some yes, some no. Okay, actually what I'm going to do today, this morning, is to share my experience, all my mistakes, and some achievements, and a lot of failures, and also learnings. In the process of making Planet of Snail, it's not plural, it's one snail. So not the planet of snails, it's not the planet of the snail, it's planet of snail. Very vague. Anyone has watched Planet of Snail here? Who knows this film? 1, 2. So perhaps it was screened last year, right? 2012. Now it's 2014, so 2 years ago. Okay, let me introduce a little bit of myself and what I'm doing. So as you can see, I'm a filmmaker, producer, and I'm trying to live a sustainable life as a filmmaker with time to water my plant in the morning. I put this line, with time to water his plant in the morning, is because that's really the life I want to live. But to many independent filmmakers, these two don't seem to match together. Sustainable life as a filmmaker. Can you call yourself as a full-time filmmaker? What I mean by full-time filmmaker is that you don't necessarily need to work in the 7-Eleven, you don't necessarily need to work as a whatever, the wedding photographer, just filmmaker. And that's what I want. And even to be a little bit more luxurious with some time to water my plant in the morning. And I respect filmmakers, everyone, including myself. In the beginning, we thought this is a portrait of this special man, but in the end, it became, clear that this is much more than that. So, anyways, perhaps we can start with the trailer, so you have a little bit of orientation what kind of film I'm talking about. So, what you hear is completely from the perspective of a producer, not from the director. And I'm sure he does a lot of master classes, but from director's point of view, very different. Please keep this in mind.
음악이 어둠과 적당한 힘과 함께 있었고 나가 나타나자 나에게로 왔다. 아주 어릴 때부터 시청자들이 아직 조금 완전적 자동차는 조금 지우다 되었을 그리고 현실에서 보지 못하는 것은 꿈속에서도 절대로 보지 못합니다. 태어나서 한 번도 별을 본 적이 없고 공부한도 별이 있다는 것을 의심한 적이 없어. 잘 키웠지?
it's not boasting in a way, but in order to dramatize a little bit what kind of ups and downs we have been through, I have to tell you the achievement first. This film has been screened on more than 100 festivals. I don't know, still is traveling. Two copies. In total, three copies are constantly traveling somewhere. And we won more than 10 awards. I don't remember exactly the number, including the Grand Prix in ITFA and Silver Dogs, one in Tel Aviv, Madrid, one country in Africa, and Australia Screen Award. Anyways, and more than 15 broadcasters. And we had a theatrical release, Korea, Japan, US, and the UK, Netherlands, and in Japan, it's still in the cinema. And I'm still getting money from my sales agents. Twice a year, and that's somehow I can buy my new plants. I can pay rent. And this is the first Korea-European Union co-produced documentary. As far as I know, and nobody told me, no, you're wrong. There's one before, no. So I think this is the first Korean-European Union co-produced documentary. Anyway, co-production is new to Asia, right? And this is the first Sundance Fund grantee from Korea, the first ITFA main competition winner, the first ITFA Forum, first Sheffield Project selected project. I mean, a lot of firsts, more and more and more. But it looks glamorous. It looks glamorous, and it looks like, okay, so now the filmmakers are, having fantastic life. They have, Mercedes, they have champagne and having party every day. No, not at all. We are still suffering, and we are still struggling to live a sustainable life as filmmaker. Myself, with time to work to my plant in the morning, and my director, some money to buy his beer. But everything actually starts with just 2-pager. When the director came to me, that was 2009. I think it's in early April. Maybe, around this time, 2009. It's not that long ago. He came to me with two-page proposal. It's not even proposal. It's, full of text. And there's nothing in statement. No vision I saw. Just the text full of information about the deaf and blind community. How they are, what kind of life they live, and what kind of social welfare system that is missing and needed. And my first impression on that project proposal was, it's heavy. And I said, well, good luck. I wish to see this movie one day. And in my thoughts, even though I said good luck, but I thought, do you really need to make a movie out of this? There are so many broadcasters, newspapers, they cover this story, this marginal population. I don't want to make a movie about something that I don't want to watch. Newspaper article is enough for me. If there is something that needs to be made as movie, then you need to have a reason. But anyway, that proposal, the 2-pager, didn't show anything until I saw this 10-minute clip that he brought to me. like 2 or 3 months afterward, after the first meeting. And I watched the 10 minutes, and I found something, maybe this is what you meant. It's a little bit different from what I understood from your paper. The paper didn't say, I didn't see any artistic vision on this text. And that exact same day, he invited me to the Youth Film Festival in Korea, in Seoul. So I watched this previous movie called Children of God. They are fishing the coin from the river, the holy river, that when people burn their dead body. The children, they are fishing the coin with magnet, and they swim in the... I mean, it is heartbreaking subject, but he filmed it in a way very poetic and quite similar to Planet of Snails. I mean, it's a very different film. But you can see that the director's attitude toward the subject. He doesn't see them as beautiful subject. And the distance between the camera and the subject, you can see he sees them as, there's really no difference, also no distance. And I call it later, I call it not fly on the wall, but fly on the shoulder. You're very close and you are still very objective, as if you are not there. You're like in the air. And this subject treat the director like air, So that's the distance, and that's the atmosphere, that's the space the director creates in his films. So we drank a lot of rice wine that night. We got drunk and we verbally signed the contract. Verbally that night we signed the contract. And what is this beer here? I written down here. I said here, documentary moment. So very often people ask me, how did you start this project? And because the director is not here, I always have to speak for him. And to him is the beer. How? When he first met this protagonist, it was for a scientific TV program. It's not even documentary. 20-minute show for educational broadcaster in Korea, fully commissioned, and they want to. It's a series, scientific. It's a science series about human hand and his language, which is finger braille, which is so special. So he heard about this guy. He read about it on the newspaper article, and he contacted. Okay, I want to see you, and they sort of became friends. I don't know how, I don't know why, but they became friends. So once this lovely couple invited him, because they also live very nearby, and he visited, and he heard from his wife that he loves beer. So he brought, like a couple of bottles of beer, and he put it on the table. And then the guy, the first thing he did, he's scanning, he's touching what's in the bottle, what's in the bag. And he said, I think you know something about beer, huh? The beer must be in the bottle, it shouldn't be in the can. And it is a crime to put the beer in the plastic bottle. So that moment he thought, oh, this is so special. The way he sees the world is very different. Because we see beer, when you see the beer, we think, what do you see first? You see the bottle, and then okay, I'm gonna enjoy it, and you think about the taste. But to him, the whole experience begins with the touch of the bottle, and this temperature, and this moisture, felt in his hands. He doesn't say this like this. He always say, I start this because I met this guy and, you know. But anyway, that's the moment. I call it documentary moment. That's the moment that you know, oh, this is something special. This is something I want to share with many people, not only with my friend, but with as many people as possible, because you are a storyteller, you want to tell the story. And my documentary moment in this project, I met this guy. I mean, as you can see, I have a big presence, so I'm not usually allowed to be in the set, in the shooting set, because I scare people. I don't say anything, I don't do anything bad, but when I'm there, and they get, okay. Can you imagine a director like me made that kind of film? Of course not, because I scare people. I mean, I do the different kind of films, you know. But anyway, when I first met this couple, what they did, this guy, he asked me, would you mind if I touch you? I expected to shake hands, but he wanted a little bit more in order to perceive me, you know, as a whole. So I said, yeah, sure, why not? And he started scanning me from the, you know, from the top of my head all the way through. That was such an experience. Wow, this guy is scanning me. Then he knows, you know, how, and I'm sure he was smelling me. I'm sure he was, you know, paying attention to the little, you know, sounds, buzz that I make. And I spent like a couple of hours with them. We had, you know, it was a picnic with the sakura flower, the cherry blossom, beautiful weather in a park. And then after a couple of hours, I felt, I'm so jealous of this couple. Not just because I got dumped by my ex-girlfriend. I was so jealous. I mean, but I'm not supposed to be jealous of this disabled couple, right? We are not supposed to be jealous of these people. But I was so jealous. It was so true. The moment of truth. It was a moment of truth. And then I thought, wow, if I can make my audiences also feel the same way that I feel, then this movie will be successful. If I can put this feeling onto the screen, this will be successful. So these are the moments. This moment I call documentary moments, the moment of truth. And I'm trying to remember whatever project I do. I always try to remember what is the moment of truth. And I advise you to do the same. And I think some people in my class, that's what I meant by documentary moment. Some of you are familiar with the development of a story, development of documentary. But at least 2009 in Korea, when I say development of documentary story, development of documentary project, and the usual feedback was, what development for documentary? Documentary, come on, this is not something you develop. This is not even something you prepare. You just go there in the moment. You just go there in the present. Then you get it. That is what most documentary makers and also in the industry, they believe. 2009, not that long ago. With my education and I started documentary making in Amsterdam in 2002, and it was my my work experience. It's not only documentary, also fiction or TV, cinema or commercial. I did everything that earns me some money to pay the rent and to buy some beer and smoke some weed. That's what I did. So like But my director somehow, he has been working as a director. I mean, but in Korea, for the TV director, that means you do everything. Maybe it's the same in Indonesia. You shoot and you edit, very often alone, and with one assistant guy, and you have a sort of producer in broadcaster, and they just say what they think. But basically, you know, for TV documentary maker whose market is only the domestic TV market, basically making a documentary is a one-man show. But it was not in this case. So what I did, I heard about Eurodoc. It's another European Union funded development workshop. And I was very lucky, I have to say. Back then, European Union had some money. So they sponsored these events. And my tuition and flight and the hotels, 80% were covered. So, I mean, Europe, the tuition fee is pretty high. It's quite expensive. And I only had to pay like 20 or 15% of the whole cost from Korea to Europe in the period of 10 months. So I was a very lucky boy. And I don't think that exists anymore. But anyway, in Europe, in Eurodoc, you know, from 2010, early spring until October 2010, I developed the story. And we studied this project as a portrait of a special man who is deaf, blind, and also a poet who writes beautiful poetry. At least that was my director's original thought. His original vision was, because he was fascinated by, you know, the way this special man perceived the world. But we realized this is more than just a portrait of this special man. I will show you one clip, maybe 7 to 10 minutes. This is a clip. This is a part of the movie, but a clip that I showed in Eurodoc.
자기는 보면 알아?
해봐요. 동그란 거. 좀 많이 봤어. 하나가 근데
이거 저거 있어?
사와야 돼. 저거 빼서 거기는 그거. 아니,
근데
아니, 더. 그거 말고.
응.
그거 말고. 그거 말고. 이쪽. 거기 말고. 그거 말고 옆에 쏘는 그거. 조금만 더.
상권 상권했어. 대처에 어둠과 정락이 있었다. 그 어둠과 조명은 신님과 함께 있었고 나아가 나타나자 나에게로 왔다.
The clip you saw is like how long? 10 minutes or 7 minutes? But the actual event happened more than a couple of hours. It took them more than, I think, 3 hours to change the simple light bulb. Anyways, what we did, in Eurodoc, we had a chance to cross pitch. So I pitch, like every member of the group have to tell what others project is about. So in my group there were 10 people, and I said, well, this is the story. This is, a story about a special man who's deaf, blind, and poet who write beautiful poetry. And then 9 out of 10 people, they said, it's a love story. I didn't, well, now, this is clear, this is a love story. But I didn't know. And we didn't know. So that night, I called my director from, I think it was somewhere in Croatia or somewhere in Slovenia or something. I called my director, hey, you know what? I think we should rethink the story a little bit. I think we've got a problem. And what is that? Well, people say this is a love story. And the director said, no. You know what? Don't listen to other people too much. What is development? Don't listen to other people. We have to go back to the basic, stick to the beginning of this project. And it took us like a couple of weeks to discuss. And of course we have to surrender. And of course we also knew it's not just surrender. We knew, yeah, this is a love story. But often, especially the director, often you're obsessed with your first thing and you just don't realize what it is. So that's why the development is important. That's why you have to, I'm not saying that you have to listen to other people, but you have to somehow be open. As a filmmaker, you have to be open, and you have to, you shouldn't take it as something fixed over there. Because documentary, what is documentary? It's moving. It's like animal. It's like living thing. And you are growing. You are living your life with it. And the process of, especially the observational documentary. So, yeah, this is the dramatic change that happened in the process of development. And now, maybe perhaps you are more interested, I don't know, about this part, searching for money, how we found money. So you see, we've got money from 2 different funders from Korea, and we pitched at twice Asian Side of Dog, Sheffield, ITFA, and Sunny Side of Dog. And we've got money from Sundance Fund, Synergy Fund, and the broadcaster from Japan, NHK, and the YLE, the Finnish broadcaster, and everything. So this is kind of a new concept, multi-source financing, which is not very common for documentary, at least in Asia. Not so many documentaries are made with the funds from different sources. Just one broadcaster or one generous sponsor, or commercial sponsor. So it is kind of a new concept, but how we did it, I just don't know. We just tried everything that was available, and of course, at least we have access to the information, so we did it. But it wasn't easy at all. Let me begin with how it was to pitch in Korea. The first pitching session was held in 2009 in Korea, now 2014, not so long ago. It was attached to the broadcaster, EBS, education broadcaster. Now they are doing better, they have experience, but in the first pitch, but the condition for this, the money did not come from the broadcaster, but the money come from other governmental organization that has to do with the TV. And the condition for that grant was to screen the film next year, meaning 2010. And we didn't even start shooting really. We are still in the development stage. And we didn't know it's going to be that tough, and they also didn't know making documentary takes such a long time. Especially international co-production takes that long time. So when we finish the film, we are supposed to screen the world premiere. They always obsessed with this term, world premiere. They wanted to have world premiere, but who cares? I mean, who knows about Korean EBS broadcaster film festival? But they did, and they gave me a really hard time. And I told them, already in the middle, growing big. Now we have Sundance Funds, and we have a Japanese broadcaster, Finnish broadcaster, and now a lot of people are watching us, and they are expecting some sort of high standards. We cannot just deliver, and most of all, I don't want to disappoint my Korean audiences. I don't want to show the crappy rough cut to Koreans. But what we did, we had to screen something. They were not flexible, and I became an asshole, and so I had to make a version, especially for EBS broadcaster, 67 minutes, which is neither fall nor fish. We have a feature length of 87 minutes, and we have a 48 minutes TV version. But we had to make 67 minutes, something that we don't show after all. Just one-time screening. For the sake of, how much was it? $30,000? And I had to fight a lot, and some of them don't even talk to me anymore. And in another pitching forum in Korea that happened in 2010, and I mean we knew that in Asia, documentary making is not a full-time profession really. I mean, at least not in my term. So for them, a documentary that has a budget of $240,000 is crazy. So are you insane? You have a budget of $240,000 for a simple documentary. So we knew it. So I cut the budget half. I made a fake budget only to submit and to please these Korean juries who will assess the project, the pitching session. And then, so I submit like $120,000, and we pitched. And they said, everyone loved this project, but we didn't get the grant. And they said, the only question we received from the juries, we have a problem with the budget. Why is it so expensive? 120? And I said, well, did you see the detail of the budget? The director gets $20,000, and this is a full-time work, and we are planning to do it in 2.5 years. 2.5 years work, $20,000. If you work 2.5 years in 7-Eleven in Korea, you get more than that. And a producer, even smaller, $15,000, because producer can do other things. I mean, which I was also handling other project. Yes. And they said, come on, it's a documentary. What do you mean by documentary? You do other things as well. You don't only do documentary. Well, I want to do only documentary. I want to devote at least 2.5 years of my life into this fucking project. I'm serious. But they were very upset. They were offended by this. And they dropped this project. Because it doesn't really... I think I hurt their ego. They want to be the generous sponsor of this project. But we are aiming, something beyond their understanding, because we are already talking to some other funders. They want to be the only funder. So imagine if the budget was $20,000, just like other Asian documentaries made by a filmmaker and his friends, multiple friends, very generous friends. Then it would have been no problem. But it was not the case. And so we had to look for some international opportunities. So we went to, the first pitching session was Sheffield. And this was selected. For them, it was a really bizarre project. The synopsis begins with, I come from the planet of snail. I am slow. I mean, the synopsis begins with I, instead of this documentary is about what. So, but they loved it. So they even promoted it on their website. This year, for the first time, we have a really variety of a project, one from Korea. I mean, for them it's kind of the pitching forums, they are also, in the festival, they are looking for something exotic, always. So they were really excited. So we were very excited about this whole thing. Wow, Sheffield Pitching Forum, Sheffield Mid-Market, they picked this project and they promoted this as one of their favorite project. So they arranged like 12 official 12 meetings, one-on-one meetings with 12 different funders, broadcasters, BBC, DR, PBS, whatever. I mean, YLE, Sundance, whatever. Okay, you know what? Let's try to get one or two maximum out of this, 14 meetings. Let's sign just no more than 2. If we signed more than 2 contracts, then there will be too much. Let's be humble. Of course, we came up with empty hands, no money, empty promises. We want to see more. And what they say to us, it's charming, it's nice, but we want to see more. And the usual feedback we get from them is, so how does it begin and how does it end? Because it doesn't have a typical dramatic narrative, this film. We just show the pieces of their lives. That's everyday life. There's no big drama. This deaf and blind man is not going to take a surgery and he's gonna, all of a sudden he becomes normal. It's not like this. He's not even challenging. There's no big drama in their life. But it doesn't matter. by showing these little pieces and pieces of their lives, they are very small, many small dramas, and together it makes a beautiful film. In that sense, it's not the typical, observational documentary story, but we believed in it anyway. We knew it's going to be beautiful. So in Sheffield we had a little fight, but we were fine. And we went to Hong Kong, Asian side of the dog. We pitched it, and we also learned that the pitching is not only the trailer and the body pitch. It is also the whole performance, including the dress code. So I was wearing red pants, and the director was wearing the green shirt, and the co-producer from Finland wearing white shirt. So you're very strange and special in a way. Like these two Korean guys and a bold Finnish man together on the stage, and the color is red, green, and white. But the feedback from a sales agent, a very well-known sales agent, came up to me. I mean, I have known her for a while, and she didn't come to me, but she just, so I asked her, so how did you see my pitch? How was it? This is not sellable. Literally, she said to me, this is not sellable. I'm sorry, no, she didn't even say sorry, but she just said, this is not sellable. This is what we heard from the very well-known sales agent. But to my director, in front of his face, this is not sellable. What do you mean? I mean, you can say, oh yeah, this is quite difficult to sell, and I'm not sure if I can handle it, but, but very often those big players in the market, they behave like this. I don't know why, to show off or to influence or to somehow find their position in the market. I find it as a part of the game they play. And I talked to my director in that day with a beer. Listen, this is sellable. Don't worry. And we're going to sell a lot. This is the partnership that I had with my director. It was more heartbreaking to him than to me. Because to me, I mean, I knew I'm going to sell. But the director, for him, this is the first international project that he's making, and he's putting everything there. $20,000. He's not even paying. We are making it without paying ourselves. And we will make it with or without the funds. But you hear these kind of things from the market expert. And you will hear this more. Especially if you're unknown. People don't know about your work. People do this to you. But there was an angel in Hong Kong who just came as soon as we finished the pitching, just came up to us, and is a very stiff and very strange man who looks like a corporate, man in suit. He's a commissioning editor from NHK, Japan. Mr. Kim, I need to talk to you. that was what I heard. Sure, let's talk. And 1 year later, we've got we signed a contract with NHK with $33,000, which was the highest budget for co-production, international, with non-Japanese director back then. Now the money, the amount of the budget they have for international co-production decreased after the disaster. They cut down on the budget. But anyway, that was we have another story. I mean, the working together, working with the Japanese broadcaster is a little bit different. But at least as a supporter, as a first-time supporter, one of the first supporters of the project, it was very encouraging that somebody from outside Korea recognized the project and they want to support, they are interested. Of course, this is a beautiful story, this is a very positive case. But even though some people come up to you and, hey, I'm interested in your project, it doesn't mean that they're going to give you money. So anyway, there was one broadcaster that we met in the course of, in the series of pitching forums, and that worked. And I want to talk about this Sundance Fund and Synergy Fund and ITVS. Are you familiar with this kind of international documentary fund? I think a lot of these funds are from the US. Sundance, they have an open call for international documentary. Tribeca, they also have funds. Of course, it's very competitive, but if you have a good project and you have a good chance to win the grant. And the nice thing, really the nicest thing of these funds, there is no strings attached. They only support you because they love you. I mean, at least they love your project. Not necessarily you as filmmaker, but at least they don't ask much. And Sundance, for example, Sundance and Tribeca, they don't even ask for the premiere at their festival. That also means, even though you make a film with our money, if your film is shit, we're not going to screen your film at our festival. I mean, that is fair, isn't it? It's fair to everybody. So that is the sort of fun. If you are tired of this game, I mean, it's also the game. You have to know how to win this. But at least that was very helpful for us to fill the financing gap. Not much. Sundance Fund 20,000. Synergy Fund another $20,000. $20,000. Synergy is a New York-based fund, and I heard about this when I was developing the project in Eurodoc, and one of my colleagues told me, hey, there is a fund called Synergy, and Synergy, they are looking for documentary that has the cinematic value and some other values that they support. And they said complexity over duality. That is one very important criteria. Complexity over duality. And they even have a Q&A session. What do you mean by complexity over duality? They don't support the simple story that there's a bad man and good man. There's a evil that you have to fight. It's not like this. And I thought, oh yes, this is quite complex. This is complex perfectly. And I thought when I saw the rules and the description of the funds, I thought, wow, this is a fund made for this. This is a fund made for this particular project. So I submitted and I got it. And ITVS. How many of you heard about this fund, ITVS? How many of you heard about ITVS? What do you know about this? Like, what kind of money do you know they are?
Oh, well, I heard they don't commission anymore any projects, so they want some distribution rights in the U.S. Like if we get the ITVS fund. But yeah.
And ITVS is, as far as I remember, they made this ITVS fund to educate the U.S. citizens. I mean, to bring some diversity. They want their U.S. citizens to know what's going on outside the U.S. So that's why they have this fund for international documentaries. $100,000. Have you ever had that much money in your bank account? Never in my life. And I'm not sure if I will ever have that much money in my bank account at cash. $100,000. I mean, we had several meetings with them. Yeah, it was very nice. And they love this project. I didn't know how much they loved it because all they say after 10 minutes of explanation and how you can apply and sort of trailer and hearing my public pitch, and all they say, submit it, and this, you have to fill in this form and blah blah blah. So I thought they are interested, but I didn't know how much they're interested and what they want from me. I didn't know. But when I heard that we are selected, no, we just passed the first round, and we already had Sundance and Silver Ridge, so the excitement was a little bit less, but still, come on, $100,000. With that money, we can finish the film, and we can even have a holiday. We can pay all our, assistant directors, and we don't. No longer we have to drink this cheap soju. We can drink beer, and we can have a proper meal, and pay the assistant directors. We don't need to hear all these complaints. So after the second step and the final step, we passed, and they said, "Wow, congratulations!" And I remember we were dancing. Me, my director, and other producers. We were dancing in the office. And they want to do a Skype call with me before they send me the contract that looks like a yellow page. What do I call this? The yellow book, white book. The phone book. We are very excited and we are very happy until we find out the condition for that money is quite different from what we expected. They want, yes, as Amelia said, they want the whole US right. It's fine. I mean, it's not my country, US. The money comes from there, and if they want to have a US, fine. I think it's more than fair. And they want the percentage of the international sales revenue equal to their budget contribution. 100,000 out of 240,000. It's like 40-something%, right? 43%, something like this. A little bit too much, but when I try to use all my logic, it seems fair and logical. It's fine. If you really want it, then I can give. And maybe with a little trick, I can make the budget a little bit higher. Then the percentage becomes a little smaller. Even that didn't feel very well to me, because I somehow had to lie. And I spoke to some people. I asked some of the experts and who have experience with ITVS. They all suggested, they all advised me to do it. Yeah, well, that's something you cannot change, so raise your budget and make the percentage smaller. And once I tried, we call it monetary breakdance. You break all this budget and make it somehow bigger. This is something you have to do. But this international sales revenue also includes Korea. Excuse me? So you take America, and you take the sales revenue from my international sales, and you're not giving me Korea? What kind of fund is it? What kind of a rule is that? And I ask, is it negotiable? And they say no. And I said, come on, really? I mean, don't you think this is not fair? Don't you think this is unfair? And they said, well, we understand. We really understand your concerns, but this is a system. What do you mean by the system? I mean, what is a system? Perhaps a bunch of people sitting behind a computer, that's a system. Anyway, that was my interpretation. It was not negotiable, so we had to reject $100,000. Of course, we thought hard. It was a very tough decision because still, my director, he has a wife in the crying, not baby, but in the elementary school who needs care. And he didn't pay himself for several months, and he had to do all these TV jobs in between. He had to go to China to make a TV program 1 week and then come back and do this shooting again. And the assistant directors, they didn't get paid more than the people, the part-timers in 7-Eleven did. But I was really thinking hard whether this $100,000, I mean, yeah, am I going to make more than $100,000 in Korea from the theatrical release and TV altogether? It's quite ambitious, quite challenging, making $100,000 from your local, whatever. After all this P&A, and that means I have to somehow have more than 100,000 ticket admissions in the cinema in Korea. So I knew when I was rejecting it, I knew that we are losing money. But it's a matter of principle. And if we took that money, I'm sure we are not as happy as we are now. And I'm sure also the result of the film would not be the same. Because you make film without this heart. You always feel something. You feel sorry to your film. You feel sorry to your subject. You feel sorry to your crew. Because that's unfair. So that's how we rejected $100,000. Are you ready for the round 2? You all recharged your battery in the morning. So I know it's a little bit boring. So I will start with another clip. So I went back to the previous slide, searching for money. I explained everything, but I didn't show you the trailer we made, especially for pitching forums. I think we have like 7 or 8 different versions for different festivals, because not different festivals, but different pitching forums. They have all different regulations and criteria. Sheffield is notorious. Their limit for the trailer, I think, is 1 minute. You have to make a 1-minute trailer. They believe a good project can be pitched in 1-minute trailer. So anyway, that's also the skill that you have to somehow develop. And you can practice it and you can cut it. It's also good practice. How you can tell your story concisely in such a short time. I will show you. I'm not sure if Sheffield was 1 minute or 2 minutes, but certainly it is no more than 2 minutes. That's what I know. So the winner of this pitching session will go to Sheffield, right?
Yes.
Yeah, unless they change the regulation, you have to make a very short
They
trailer.
cannot pitch. They can only observe because it's too late to
Oh.
apply. And it's Sheffield territory to decide their own pitching, not us. Yeah.
Okay.
But at least you can observe.
Yeah, but you know, as an observer, there's no difference. There's no difference. If you are good, you can always do the guerrilla pitching, which I always do. And Sheffield has been the best place, best venue for guerrilla pitching, because it's, I mean, you know, among all other these glamorous pitching forums, Sheffield has been pretty, you know, low key, and it's easy to mix with other people, and the atmosphere is rather casual. So it was, for me, it was good. And I just, you know, bump into people, hey, how you doing? And I just, hey, would you like to see my trailer? And of course, it's better to have a good trailer. Okay, I will show you the clip that I made. I think I made it for Sheffield. It's a little bit more than 2 minutes. But when you submit a trailer, you have to keep their regulations. If it's 2 minutes, then 2 minutes. But when you actually pitch, it can be a little bit longer and shorter. You can improve. You can improvise a little bit. So, which I did. I'll show you.
네, 저희들은 시각적이고 청각적인 두 가지 장애가 있습니다. 이 세상에서 나 같은 장애인이 할 수 있는 게 거의 없을 것 같았었는데 책을 읽어보니까 책을 쓰는 것은 가능하지 않을까. 항상 나를 데리고 다니더라. 헛사람은 아내에게 나를 늘 면목이었다. 돈도 벌고 대벌 같은 집도 사서 행복하게 해주고 싶은 마음 벌떡 같지만 아직은 꿈일 뿐이다. 가장 가치 있는 것을 보기 위하여 잠시 눈을 감고 있는 거다. 가장 정대의 것을 듣기 위하여 잠시 귀를 닫고 있는 거다. 가장 진실한 말을 하기 위하여 잠시 침묵 속에서 기다리고 있는 거다.
It's a little bit different, isn't it? The first trailer that you saw, that's the trailer that we made when the film is fully finished. Just before we had the international premiere at ITFA competition, we made it. But this one, we made it just to pitch. We didn't know how this would end, but still, you can see that we sort of knew what kind of atmosphere this film would have. We made it already when the project, in the early stage of production. So we have shot like 6 months, and when we made this trailer. So we already knew what kind of atmosphere and the tone and the mood this will have. And it is a little bit more teasing. It's a little bit, more mysterious. You want to know more. And we try to offer these audio-visual experiences. Imagine if you were a deaf and blind man, and who has this special ability. That's why I ask a DJ friend to mix the noise as if maybe that could be, that could be something that our protagonist will hear. Because we knew that one of his ears is completely deaf, but the other one is full of noise. You can hear something, but you cannot really distinguish different sounds. You cannot distinguish the voice out of the car noise, for example. So I asked a DJ, can you please mix all the noise with the all this noise in the street? And we put that. And I wanted to offer some the tension. So I stole this music from one of my favorite techno trance musician, Infected Mushrooms. They are notorious for smoking and having party, full moon party. Anyways, so I took some part of the music and we made a loop of this and used this. And you don't know which music we used, but that's the music. So anyway, this is a trailer. I mean, you have a different trailers in different stages and different subject. It's really free. However, you make the trailer. There's no rule. Only one rule, that it has to present your project the best way. That's it. You can use whatever. Now, I want to talk about international co-production and collaboration.
Can I ask
Yes.
your trailer for Sheffield? Why do you make it with a different tone?
Very good question. Because when we pitched at Sheffield, our focus is the man inside his inner world, the world in his world basically. So we are not that much interested in the love story. That's why you don't see anything relationship. We are really focused, on what's going on in his mind.
So it's before you got the love story part.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, we didn't start this film as a love story. We only discovered it in the process of making it. I mean, even though we somehow felt certainly there is a love in the air, something very special love, but we didn't really realize that it should be the focus of the film. Because when you start making film, you have so many different elements, so many different layers. You cannot make a film about everything. You have to make choice. And our first choice was his inner world. And then later we realized, there's another layer, which is love story. So that was clearly reflected in the trailer. Clear? Okay. I kind of sense that not a lot of people actually know the difference between international co-production and international collaboration. When you can say international co-production, certainly there is money involved. But international collaboration, you can still do it without any money, right? If you have a friend who like to work with you, and this person happen to be Malaysian, it's an international co-production or collaboration, right? Or happen to be a Korean man. If I decide to work with one of you guys, at some level, I don't know. And it's an international collaboration. But international co-production, by definition, means you co-produce. That means you somehow share the investment and share the responsibility and share the right. It's then you actually enter the market world, and this is not, just your filmmaking is no longer just I wouldn't say it's a hobby, but it becomes more financially serious, because that means you have to be careful. You have responsibilities, and also you have rights. So basically, that film, Plane of Snail, is an international co-production between Korea, Finland, and Japan. Technically, it is co-production with Finland because we've got money from Finnish Film Foundation and Finnish Audiovisual Center, which my co-producer raised in his own land. How come? I mean, how a Finnish guy happened to work on the Korean project as a co-producer? I have to tell you, at the end, I'm going to repeat it, but I can tell you, because he slept with me. Yeah, because he slept with me. We had a party. I mean, he's a father of 3 children now. We had a party. I met him as just one fun-loving guy in film festival in Busan. And I told you I used to run a nightclub before I entered this serious co-production world. And I enjoy drinking, even though I quit even drinking now. But back then I was drinking. I really liked beer and atmosphere. We were making constantly, making fun of ourselves. That was 2009 in October. And we really had a good time. And I only discovered that this guy is a producer from Finland. The next day he called me, hey, I like to hang out with you guys more. And then, okay, why not? And then he came a few months later. He said, oh, I have a project, so I want to shoot. Can you help me? Why not? So I was helping him with my camera and everything. And we really got drunk. I ended up waking up in his bed in his hotel. Because I lost my key. In the pouring rain, I drank too much and I lost my key to my house. So I just had to...
Did you take your clothes too?
Anyway, he was offering me very generously one side of his, double queen size bed. So, and then he almost missed the flight. But anyway, that's the thing we did. And we just had party. But when we did it, we didn't talk about business. What we were building together, it was not a business relationship. It was a friendship and trust. It was unconditional. He was not nice to me because he knew that he's going to win ITFA, he's going to get Sundance Fund, he's going to get all this Asia Pacific Screen Award. He was going to wear tuxedo and receiving red carpet. No, he was, we were just having fun. So I already considered him as a friend. I mean, of course, you don't necessarily have to get drunk to be friends. But back then, that was my way of, building friendship. 2009. So I think that is very, very important. after this project, I tried several international co-production without sleeping with the co-producer, and it's very difficult. I have to tell you, it's very, very difficult. Because, international co-production is like international marriage. I'll tell you later. Anyways, international co-production. So, when he got this money, about 40,000 euros from Finland, and there was a condition which my director didn't know because I forgot to tell him. Until like few months before we actually have to make a decision about how we can spend this money. The money must be spent in Finland, which my director didn't know. And because we also raised money from Finnish broadcaster without him, without the co-producer, we pitched it already, and then the Finnish co-producer, the broadcaster YLE, and he really loved it. So we didn't know, including that money will also be spent in Finland. I mean, we already had an editor. When I talk about this, I'm actually very proud of this project because we set up the team out of the pure artistic connection between the filmmakers. The editor comes from Lebanon. And people ask me, wow, I didn't know Lebanon has such a lot of money. No, we didn't get any money from Lebanon. He only brought some Lebanese cigarettes, but he didn't bring anything. Why Lebanon? Because my director liked him very much. They met in the festival Hot Dogs first, and then he came to Korea. He was invited. He's actually the winner of Hot Dogs 2009, called One Man Village, and he's the director of it. And he came, and the same story. We had party, playing and making fun of each other, making fun of ourselves. And we like each other's film. You knew that this guy understands you. If I work with this guy, then of course we can expect that we'll have a fight, but we also know that he understands you. So, so the money, what are we going to do with this 40,000 euros in Finland? Of course, as a producer, so we cannot spend money on editor because we already have an editor, and we have a director who is also shooting. And what can we do? Maybe you can do sound mixing, but in Korea, with $2,500, you can get a cheap mixing in a couple of days, no problem. Color grading, the same, yeah. Color grading, I mean $2,000, you can get a pretty decent color grading in Korea. And maybe you can print postcards, brochures. What else you can do? I didn't know what to do, but we somehow felt that the sound must be special. We have always known that the soundscape of this man must be reflected in the film, and therefore the sound design must be something. And I didn't even know the difference between sound design and sound mixing, design and mixing. I mean, because for TV documentary, you don't design the sound, you just mix. You don't always compose, you just pick some music, because with the rights, you have no problem with the rights, because the broadcaster will always pay for it. So you just pick some music and you just mix That's it. We don't do Foley either. I mean, but then I discussed with the co-producer. He said, "Hey, well, you know, in Finland, the sound design is considered to be one of the four important creative positions: directing, editing, DP, camera, and sound design." Really? Yeah. Well, sound is important, and I watched some Finnish documentaries. The sounds are really good, and they are taken very seriously because the sound that creates the atmosphere, and that also tells a story, which I didn't really know that far. So we started searching for sound designer, and he said, "Hey, I found one sound designer, and he's not going to be very cheap. 30,000 euros. 30,000 euros on sound design. Excuse me? Yeah, but they're very good, and they do a lot of Kaurismäki films, and they're very, very good, and the standard is very high. But it's a documentary. 30,000 euros on sound. Well, but how are you gonna spend this money? Let's make a 5-star sound. We have to use this money, so let's do it. And he really did his best to get the best sound designer and give them enough time to work on it. And he even applied for the sound workshop in Finland, the regional sound workshop. And he submitted plan of Snail for the workshop by I don't know. Some of you know some fiction Hollywood sound designer called Tom Fleischman. He did the sound for his 5 times Oscar nominee, including the Silence of the Lamb, and he supervised, or in one workshop like I do here, with in the class they're full of sound designers, and this Tom Fleischman was looking at this project, and he was giving advices to the sound. So we got probably most expensive sound design in the history of Asian documentary, maybe. And we have broadcasters. NHK, the very generous gentleman from Japan. He came on board as a broadcaster, but all he wanted was Japanese TV version. And we sent him the rough cut, and he came to Seoul, which is not very common for a commissioning editor to come to your studio to help you editing, or help you, or to interrupt you or annoy you. But he came with this note, and he watched the rough cut, and he made a comment second by second on the time code, like 25 minutes, 25 seconds, 5 frame. I want this to be out. This kind of a detailed commentary. Of course, this is humiliating, right? But we didn't care that much. We already so thankful for this $33,000 and Japanese TV. We didn't expect that it's going to influence anything until we realized that we will have a Japanese theatrical version later. But anyway, that was the experience with broadcaster.
So you have the TV version special for NHK?
Yes, but that ended up just TV version.
But then they don't...
Oh, sorry, we made an international TV version, yes.
You made international TV version and NHK
version. NHK version, and a 67 minutes cut for one festival in Korea.
And they...
That one without proper sound.
They don't give extra money, right?
No. No, because they don't really know the difference between post-production for documentary and post-production for TV. for TV broadcaster, normally the post-production only means a few hours of editing, no, a few days of editing, and a few hours of mixing, and selecting some music, and mastering, and poof, that's it, right? But 30,000 euros on sound design is not in their imagination. And of course, you cannot afford to do all this. So it's really pity. It's pity that Korean audience, the first audiences, they are Korean audiences, and they had to watch it, and still give us audience award. I'm so sorry for them. But later, they had a chance to watch it in the cinema, and the same festival invited the film with the final version the next year. And the sales agent. We have. Do you know the difference between sales agent and distributor? You've been traveling a little bit, America.
No. Can you explain to us? Can you explain to us?
Anyone can answer? Distributor.
Is it the distributor distribute the film to the theatrical release and to maybe television, like cable, whatever? And the DVD copy. For the sales agent is more like a middle person. They sell to other company.
Other distributors.
Yeah, other distributors.
Or broadcasters. So agent is just an agent. And by definition, the agents should work for you, and you are the client. So please remember that. Don't be fooled, because nowadays, because of the I'm losing my English. Disbalance, the imbalance. Yeah, the imbalance of the between those who can sell and those who have films to offer. There's an imbalance. There are way more filmmakers, way more producers than sales agents and distributors. So they enjoy this prestigious position to select which film I want to pick. And I even know one sales agent came to me. I like you. Once we pitched, I like you guys. I think you guys are really smart, really good. I don't select many films, but I can make unknown filmmakers a star. This is what I heard from a sales agent.
All sales agents say that.
I mean, what does a sales agent do? Sell your films, and you are the client.
Yeah, but it's no different in selling films for them than selling rubber, for example, or condoms, or underwear, or...
Yes. I mean, there are many people like this in this world. Not everyone is like this, of course. I mean, without loving documentaries, you cannot be a sales agent. You can be a sales agent for something else, maybe commercial fiction. Of course, that is more competitive, but also you can do something else. So don't get me wrong. It's not that I'm saying that they don't care or they treat you like shit. No, but there is a difference between sales agents and the filmmakers. And who cares the film the most is you. That is for sure. Don't expect that your sales agent will have the same amount of love and will take care of your film as much as you do. That's the myth. And also don't be fooled by these players. Because as I said earlier, one sales agent came to me and then this is not sellable. You know what this sales agent said again? when we had the Grand Prix in ITFA, and oh, congratulations! It's a wonderful, it's a beautiful film. Of course, you have to say that because you don't want to burn the bridge. The same sales agent told me when I won ITFA mid-length competition in 2009, won 2 films before this. And this same sales agent came to me, why didn't you submit your film to me?
Yeah.
I did. And you didn't even see it. Maybe your assistant watched it and put it in the trash can. Oh, the unknown filmmaker, unknown production company with some, bad English written synopsis, just put it in the trash can probably. Not even, I'm not sure, but at least this sales agent doesn't even remember. But when you win, you come, you should submit it. Why you didn't show me the screener? That happens.
Success is the best revenge.
Yeah. Yes. I'm telling you this because, what has changed? The film hasn't changed. It has always been like this. And the filmmakers, we are the same. We haven't changed. So what's the difference? And what matters in the end is a good film. What matters in the end is a good film. Of course, you need to have a good marketing strategy and good sales agents who take care of your films, and festival strategy. Of course, you all need that, and that's why we are here for, and we are learning hard to do this. But in the end, what matters is a good film. It's like a chef cooking. You can have a beautiful ingredients. You have all fresh meat, fresh fish, just caught out of the ocean, and it's vegetable from the organic farm. You have wonderful ingredients. And you have a really shitty chef who can ruin this. But you have a great chef, but you have a not so fresh ingredient. You cannot make a good food. So in the end, what matters is just a good ingredient. On top of it, you can do other magics, of course. But what I'm saying is, you have to have a good film first. So now, let's talk about this. International co-production versus international marriage. I had a chance to sit as a panelist next to one big BBC commissioning editor, Nick Fraser, and one NHK commissioning editor, I think Sayumi, I don't know, somebody in Asian side of Doc. And they asked all the panelists, what is co-production to you? That was 2010. And my instant answer was, it's international marriage. Co-production, I think it is even worse than marriage. What's the similarities between co-production and marriage? When you decide to co-produce a film, co-production, by definition, you work together, right? And you have a partner, and you have a goal. And you have to work together. You have to communicate. And you make something together. In marriage, not always, but often you produce babies. International co-production, how many of you have imagined that you're gonna have a fight about the rights? Big discussion about how contract should be. And 49% or 51%, 51.5% share goes to you, and 40.5% goes to the other? Or what if you have 3-4 co-producers? What about their right? How many of you are married? How many of you already think about divorce? I mean, co-production sounds very romantic, right? You only think about the benefits. Oh, you have money available there. When you think about the marriage, maybe you think about, oh, this is going to be great because I don't have sufficient income to support everything, my children. But if I have this partner and the money comes from both sides, maybe we can offer better education and better upbringings. But you hardly think about divorce. Maybe nobody. It sounds romantic. But the reality, the raw face of international co-production is no different from international marriage. And the first thing that you have to face, what do you think about international? Okay, let's not even go that far. International relationship. Not between the Vietnamese and Laos, because you have a similar language.
No, we don't have similar language.
No? It's just you who understand the language?
Thai and Lao.
I'm sorry. I'm so ignorant. But I mean, international relationship.
A lot of phone call, Skype. This is
Oh
long
yeah.
distance.
Yes, that's a very good point. It's expensive.
No, Skype is free.
Oh yeah, Skype is free, but it can be annoying. What if there is a time difference? It's very annoying. You have to wake up in the middle of the night. I mean, international co-production is way more expensive. And what else? Communication.
Use email for free.
Yeah, you can. So that's why international relationship is so difficult. International relationship that you maintain with emails, you need to see, you need to touch, you need to kiss, you need to hug. I mean, I'm an expert of international relationship. Don't try to challenge me.
No, there's one word missing when you say hug. You need to sleep.
Yes, you have to feel and touch. That's really important. I mean, international marriage, communication is one thing. It's not only about the language. It's beyond the verbal, communication. Even if I say, oh, this is microphone, and he knows this is microphone, but he doesn't know exactly what I mean by this particular microphone I'm talking about, the feel and this acoustics and everything. It's a very different thing.
That's not what he says.
Skyping is not the same. It's not the same as you actually
Not
meet.
feel.
It's not the same. International co-production. And when you divorce, what do? You calculate everything, and it's very painful. You divide, all this furniture, and I bought this, and you bought this, and I contributed this, and you didn't. When I was working, you didn't work. Yeah, come on, but I was busy in the kitchen, and I was cooking everything for you to earn money. I mean, this is not something that you can clearly, state or calculate. That's why they fight. That's why international co-production is so difficult. And of course, if you have a lawyer, that would be easier. But come on, when you started the relationship, if you started with it personal, and so emotion is attached. You work together to make this, and you start hating yourself. Why did I start all this? Of course, I'm talking about some bad, negative side. And kind of Snail, I have to say this is one very positive case, one exemplary case of international co-production. And it's because I slept with him before I studied it. Because I studied as a friend, and then later it became international co-production. Of course, there are ways to protect. I can give a whole lecture about this, more details, how you can protect. Also, a lot of legal aspects and financial aspects, but the system is different. The European system, the funding, and Asian funding. I can give you a lot of examples. For example, so what happened? I had to, after I finished this movie, I had to make a lot of fake invoices. I had to make a lot of, I don't know how many different versions of the budget I had to submit. I mean, this is something you can somehow you can deal with. If your co-production is nice, if the result is nice. And in the case of Planet of Snail, the result was nice. We got a beautiful sound, and a lot of people still talk about the sound. And I don't feel it's too expensive, even though I'm not going to do it again in Finland. I'm doing sound somewhere else. But now we can say like this because the result is nice. But I know a lot of my fellow Asian filmmakers who was very excited about international co-production, and then, hey, we got money from here and there, and now my co-producer invited me, and they go to Europe, Bali, and spending a couple of months without progressing anything because they really don't communicate with each other. They have a problem. I mean, how can you work together with one shared goal, with one shared artistic vision to achieve certain artistic vision together? That's not easy. I mean, can you imagine without proper communication between the artists, between different filmmakers? It's not that easy. So I'm not. Now it feels like I'm creating some fear, but it's not that I want to create fear. I just want you to be better prepared before you jump into this international co-production. Another thing is when you make co-production and the result is your film, that is your baby. When you have a baby out of the international marriage, you don't necessarily expect that your child immediately walk out and make some money and bring the money to you and divide, the money into, okay, mom, you put 49%, so here is your 49% of the money that I earned from the street begging. It's not like this. So it's worse. International co-production, in that case, is harder because your baby is, you're expecting that your baby is going to get money and you have to. Anyways, so a little bit of fear I created. And after all, production is all about casting, that's what I want to say. I mean, I talk about all this, all the process from the beginning, from two-pager, all the way. Now, I still get money, the film is still traveling, and somewhere on TV, cinema. It's nice. But all we did is a casting. Casting not only your character, not only casting your crew, but casting your funder. I say, you're casting your funder. Maybe that sounds a little bit too arrogant. I mean, funder is your partner too. How can you work with your partner if you don't feel right? If you don't feel this is fair? even though your partner gives you money. And sales agents is all the same. I don't believe, as a producer, I don't believe in the market expert who chase after people, who chase after winners. I learned it from my own experiences. My first, when I attended ITFA 2009, first time as a producer. I mean, I lived in Amsterdam, so I know, I'm familiar with this festival, but as an audience, but not as a professional. 2009, I had a film in the competition, and I felt that I had to promote it, and I had to find a sales agent, I had to find a broadcaster who will buy this. So I was chasing after these people, in the cocktail party. I was looking at them, and I felt that everybody knows everybody except me. And everybody knows everything except me. That's how I felt. And after 3 days of chasing, I felt so tired and I felt so terrible. What am I doing here? What am I doing here? I mean, I came here all the way from South Korea to present the film in the competition, and what I was doing was chasing after these people who constantly ignore me. And if I say hi, I mean, this is usual. I'm not blaming them, but that's how I felt. And I felt like, literally I felt like shit. So I just, I gave myself a holiday. I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna have a break now. And I called my old friends in Amsterdam and have a coffee. And in the evening I went back and I took off my badge and I entered the bar. And there were some really beautiful old men drinking beer with a nice smile. Like he's 70-something years old guy. And he happened to be a volunteer, 70-year-old, blonde, curly hair with a lot of wrinkles, drinking beer alone. And he was offering me a nice smile. So we shared really nice time. And he told me, hey, I was just ripping, the ticket of your film. And it has a pretty good feedbacks. And tonight there will be announcements for the competition winners. Nomination before you announce the winning. And then and I was just drinking beer with him. And then I heard that the 2009. I'm not talking about Planet of Snails, but 2009 winner, Iron Crows. And it was nominated. And then all of a sudden, people started coming to me. It's not that I was chasing after all these people, but all of a sudden, I don't know why, but it just, all of a sudden it happened. I haven't changed. The film hasn't changed. The film has always been there like this. So that's the learning. And in 2012 or 11, I organized a workshop for first-time filmmakers in ITFA because I was living in Amsterdam. And the title of the workshop was Everybody Knows Everybody Except Me. And I invited some of these people, some of the supporters of Men of Snails, and we shared experiences and how you can prepare yourself, how you can talk to your sales agents, and what you can expect from them, and how you can talk to the festival programmers, and what do they do for you, all these things. So anyway, I think my time's, I still have half an hour, but I want to use half an hour for Q&A or rest. It's up to you. If you have any questions, yes?
Why did the director come to look for you as a producer? And how did you feel you actually contributed to this film as a producer? What in your opinion, is the role of a producer?
To be honest, personally, I call myself an accidental producer because I didn't know exactly what a producer does. And I only knew when people started calling me a producer. What I did everything that the producer, the project need in order to be made. It was pretty clear that what my director can do. But what was missing was while I was trying to bring this project to different venues to present this project, I realized that, I feel like I am actually an interpreter between the artistic world and the business world. Because, very, very often, not always, there are some directors who has a very eloquent, wonderful communication skills, very convincing, but not always the case. And my director, Snails, he even failed to convince an unknown local producer like me in the beginning, But he succeeded with his film, with his clip. So I was basically interpreting his vision, not the word he says, but his artistic vision into the market language, because the financiers, funders, the festival people. You have to speak with them in their language.
But in terms of how the production actually changed its direction, you said that originally the director thought of it as the portrait of this very special man. And as you went through the production, you realized more and more, initially from feedback from outside, that it was going to be more of a love story. At what point did you feel that you had to then persuade your director to change direction so that it became a love story?
There is no such a point, because we are constantly communicating. Like, we are working very closely. Every day we meet, and as I said, the interpreter is not that I was speaking for him to the market people. I also do the other way around. And I was trying to get the feedback from the market, from our audiences, potential audiences. Of course, in order to convince somebody completely, you cannot just do it, overnight. You cannot just do it with one pitch. It just gradually we just constantly discuss. We constantly talk about the project, and we experimented a lot. And we had many ideas, like, maybe we should have an animation opening with the sand animation, and we even had an idea of bringing this couple to Finland to meet some, deaf rapper, something like this. But it comes very naturally, very organically, that, yes, well, yeah, you're right, this is a love story. That's the basic. And of course, in order for this project, this film to be made, then you need money. Then you have to go pitching. You have to make the budgets, and different budgets for different funders. I didn't learn anything from the film school. I dropped out 3 universities, and I didn't learn anything. But of course, I had some background. My father was a cameraman working for National News Agency. I didn't know, and video rental store. My mom was running, so I was watching all the movies. But also in the film school, I don't know how many film schools actually teach how you budget your project. I did everything that I felt I needed to do.
You became in this way a producer you learned it by doing, in a way.
Yes.
And you brought this project and other projects to a next level. Not only with the content, but with the phase of financing and selling, etc. But lots of directors are confronted with producers who have their idea of their own. Now, how does it work for you, you develop ideas and you confront directors with this idea, because then the director has to adapt to an old idea. How does that work? Well, I know, but
Yes.
can you tell something about
For sure. I mean, it's all individual, all case by case.
Right.
My role in the project is all different, all very different for different project. Sometimes I do more I put more creative input. Some project I just don't do anything. I stay away from this creative part. And when the director asks me, then I answer. Some project need more of my attention as a storyteller. So I do all different. Maybe I can show you one trailer of the film that also will be screened tomorrow, day after tomorrow. No, on Saturday, right? On Saturday. And I can tell you a little story. It's a little bit different relationship I had with the director. I mean, as an audience, you can miss it. But as a filmmaker, maybe it's worth watching. Because after listening to my masterclass,
Ladies.
this looks like a very, upbeat music film, very exciting. But this vision comes from here, not from the director. And that caused many problems, and this is a consequence.
For both film, did you get like when before the film done, did you get like an advance money from the distributor? Like maybe they want to buy your film to copy for DVD, whatever camera. Like before the production is finished, like halfway.
No, I as I said, the plane of Snail, on the way we try to finance it, but we already started shooting and we can't stop because that is something that is happening. You cannot miss the momentum. So we ended up raising half the budget, $140,000, not euros, dollars for Planet of Snail, and we finished the film with about $100,000 as a producer's deficit. So I didn't get paid, my director didn't get paid, and some people they worked, they get paid later. This one is a little bit different story. You see, Style Chosun. This is the largest media corporation in Korea, and they are very powerful and rich, and also very conservative. They are like a Fox News, or even worse than Fox News. And when this guy, the director, he's a journalist, He's actually pretty well known as an investigative journalist. Well, he's actually leader of the investigative journalist team in this company. And he previously made a serious journalistic reportage about North Korean defectors who escaped, across the border to South Korea, and that kind of serious political stuff. But he always had his dream to be a filmmaker, and he's a journalist with a filmmaker's soul, but not much skill. So he somehow convinced his producer, the leader, his boss basically, from this newspaper company. And so he already shot most of the footage, and they wanted to have a meeting with me through my colleagues. Hey, the journalists, the guys from Chosun Daily want to have a meeting with you. Why? Why Fox News guys want to have a meeting with me? And I refused several times. And somehow I was visiting Korea, and one of the directors that I really respect, he said, "Come on, they're good guys. They're not bad guys. Even though their company is horrible, but they're nice. So have a meeting. You won't lose your time." So I had a meeting. They're really nice people. And the first thing I said, "You know what? I think your company is very funny." They just launched on TV, the cable TV in Korea. And the first show was very horrible, and I was talking about that show. It was horrible, don't you think? And I really don't like your company. But by the way, what do you have for me? And he said, "I understand. You're not the first one, and you're not the only one. And because of this, it's kind of difficult to find partners to work with on this project. But if you have some time, can you please spare 10 minutes for us?" And then they gave me the DVD of some assembly. It's not even rough assembly, and some stuff, and a book essay written by a journalist about his experience of making this reportage of North Korean people. I watched the assembly of previous movie, the journalistic one. That film was broadcasted in many places and was also nominated for Emmy, but I don't like it myself actually, because I've seen so many of that kind of stories. It's for international audiences. This is something interesting and very, very new. It has a news value. But Korean people, as a Korean audience, we actually don't like the way that international media is selling that kind of a story about North Korea. That's my prejudice I have. So I watched it, and I watched 5 minutes, and I turned it off. I didn't like it at all. Then I started reading this book. Oh, it's really nice book, and the book was written very honestly and was very different from the film that he made. And he actually wrote with whole heart, full of his regrets and his, consolations, and it's so beautiful, it's very touching. And I wrote him an email, "Hey, I really like your book, but I didn't finish your film." But and then we had a meeting. I really started liking this guy as a director. But then later, also, the small ego started growing in me. I was born as a record store owner's son. When I was born, my mom was already running a record store, so I was listening to music before I started speaking. And I was watching all this, Hong Kong noir movie in the 80s and 90s. That's who I am. And I used to run a nightclub. I was producing some parties and live concerts with the rock music and all sorts of things. So when you see this material, yes, documentary about K-pop idols, how they are manufactured, how they are, how they are trained. I'm gonna make this movie. I'm gonna make a wonderful music documentary out of this. So that was my ego. And fortunately and unfortunately, the director didn't really have the vision. He was more into. He has a very clear journalistic perspective. He was wondering what is happening there behind this all glamour. That's the starting point. And it was very clear in the footage. He just, he didn't, in the footage, there was no, you don't see this film is shot for music film. It doesn't have the rhythm, it doesn't have this, all this mise-en-scène and everything. Audio-visual is, the sensitivity is not there, but I have a big ego. So I called my friend, editor, and the graphic designers without any money, but I sort of expected that, hey, this is a documentary about K-pop. It will be easy to finance. And in the worst case, the footage is already there. I'm not going to lose much. It's a K-pop, And I didn't know that having this company as a partner will lead me into that kind of consequences. Because, imagine you have a project, and you say this is a co-production between Fox News and an independent producer. Would you finance it? Would you give your money to this? So I submit this project. I don't know how many, like 3 or 4 to Korean documentary fund, all rejected.
But does the star give you money? The Fox give you money or no?
No, I refused because if I was too ambitious and I was too arrogant. I didn't want let them hurt my ego. I didn't want to do what they say. I wanted to have my voice. So I made a deal. It's obvious that you already shot this much, but you don't know what to do with it. Now I'm gonna take care of the whole post production, and I will take certain percentage, and you take certain percentage, and it will be my investment. Because I didn't want to lose this freedom, and I have an ego, the expensive ego.
I like that.
Yeah, well, that's a good attitude, of course, and we can talk about that later. But I do want to know if you make a film about a pop group, they got all the rights.
It also depends on the project. It's really case by case. This Q&A is actually this subject is for the Q&A on Saturday, but I'm going to tell you a little bit. Access is the key to this kind of film, because all the entertainment industry, nobody wants to show their ugly face. What they sell is a fantasy and 9 sexy girls. No entertainment agency want to show their ugly, naked, face of them. But Joseon is a Fox. Is more powerful than Fox, at least in Korea. And this entertainment company, they see it as an opportunity to promote their band. So they've got the access. It's not me, the director and their producer have this access. So
what happened in the end?
Yes, in the end, I tried to communicate with the director as much as I could, but of course I was very arrogant and I was very egocentric in that project because I know better about music, not he's a journalist. So what I did, that's what I thought. So I made a cut with my editor, who has a fiction and a commercial film background. So we made this, and then I just asked him, "How do you like it?" And he didn't say any word. "Oh, this is fantastic. I like it," but he didn't say much. And I only realized he said that not because he didn't have any word, but he didn't know how to say anything, because he doesn't know how he doesn't know this word basically, how he can change. There are some certain things that he doesn't like, but he cannot articulate what is wrong, because it's already, pretty much complete in itself, including the animation in the end, all this. But then, what happened? This film, again, we went. This film entered ITFA competition, music film competition, with Heineken as a sponsor. And they invited some big DJs and bands and a big venue. They screened the film in this kind of concert hall and everything. To me, it was the fourth film in ITFA competition. And already I had two winners. And for him, it was first time festival experience. Not even one festival in Korea or wherever. Because he's just new filmmaker. He's just journalist, And when we screened it, I felt something is very strange, but he was very nervous. And he didn't. I invited him. Hey, there is one gathering. It's a brunch organized by human rights festivals. So maybe you should come by and have some snacks with them. And then he said, "Oh, I see." And then I realized he didn't have any sleep in the night to prepare for the potential questions he may get from these human rights festival people. And after 5 minutes of hanging around with the people, the festival programmers, and he was looking at me, "Can I go? Is it over now? Is it alright?" And he went back to hotel to sleep. And in the Q&A, it was also awful. I mean, I cannot overtake, his stage as a director, because he's a director after all. And I was sitting in the back, but it was very, not very natural anyway, because people somehow have the expectation, it's a music film. You came here to feel this music, the rhythm and everything. And it was a little bit strange. So we didn't really talk about this experience for a couple of months. Only until we had a chance, was offered by one festival in Korea, DMC Dog Festival. They offered this 2 hours long, in-depth Q&A session with a very, very good moderator. And they are asking, so how come this Joseon and Min-Chul Film co-production and with the editor from Serbia and all this glamour, how come? How did it happen? And then that was the first time, like 1 year after the completion of the film, we had a chance to really talk about this. And he told me, when he saw this film in Amsterdam, in competition, he felt that he was sitting next to a gorgeous lady in red miniskirt. And this person said, "Hey, I'm your girlfriend. I'm your wife." But he doesn't feel he is my wife. "No, you're not my wife. I don't know. I don't even know how to touch your hand." That's how he felt, because that's not his film. And I felt really terribly sorry. I also realized that on the process of it, my first realization was in ITFA. I felt awfully strange and sorry. So that's, I mean, now this film has been screened in New York, Paris, London, Sydney. It's still traveling and it's doing pretty well. But is this the film that director wanted to make? Or is just evil producers, ego produced? I mean, he doesn't hate me for this. He is thankful, but he knows, and I know, that we are not going to do the same again. If we work together on the next film, then he will do his film that he can do best, and I know what it is. And I will also not involve myself like this.
But then does it sell well? This film?
Festival, yes. TV, no.
Why not?
I mean, this is. I tried really hard to understand why it doesn't sell to TV, and I think, I mean, okay, I have to tell you how I felt about this. I felt like a plastic surgeon, and a stylist. It's not so gorgeous, but okay lady, just came from a countryside and who want to be a singer. And I didn't, I made a little taller and more slimmer, and then I did the boobs a little bit bigger, and I put all this nice makeup and clothing. And
You can be proud of craftsmanship.
it's not still not as good as it should be. Probably that's the reason. I mean, I'm now killing my film in a way, but if you want to find out yourself, just come to the screening, because there is a limit when you shoot your film with a certain vision, and when you try to change it into something else, and it's very difficult. I mean, okay, you can do it, but it's always, if you want to make you can always make an okay film, good film, with a very good post-production, crew and with a good editor. But what makes fantastic film out of good film is, it's an artistic vision that you must have from the very beginning, as early as possible, and it is lacking.
Can I ask, Min-Lan or George, why do you think then the broadcaster will pick this film?
Yes, one broadcaster, by the way, that is Wen-Nan. And I'm very thankful.
The reason that BBC World bought this program was simply because, and I will talk about this in my masterclass, is simply because they have a strand at the moment which encourages the transmission of films made by native, indigenous filmmakers, not made by the BBC. And so they wanted films, and at the time I said, I had just come back from South Korea, I had met Min-Ch, and I said, I think there's some real talent in South Korea and there's some good films there. Would you consider doing a special season on South Korea? And they said yes, and that's how we got in touch with Min-Ch. Having said that, that was for BBC World. BBC Domestic is very different. I'm not sure how BBC Domestic would react to this. Possibly they would not take it, simply because K-pop is not known to a British audience. It might be known to the Korean community in Britain, but not to the British, the Anglo-Saxon British. So for that reason, maybe the BBC would not take it. So I'm giving you 2 points of view there, from BBC World and BBC Domestic.
How about you, York?
Well, it's a representation not only of music but of a certain culture. But people consider it as a musical film. And most of the time, these kind of films, of course, they differ. But these kind of films are made to promote music and and are based on a very commercial idea. And well, the public broadcast companies don't want to, and if there is another network that tries to find an audience, they ask money for that and not want to give money, because these kind of films are meant to sell. It's like a 90 minutes commercial, they consider. But this film is in a way expresses a kind of life in Korea. So it's more than just a film about music.
Yeah.
It's sometimes hard to see the difference, what is expressed. It's not a film of a boy band or a girl band.
There's no such a film like this. I mean, there are a lot of documentaries. Documentaries about K-pop idols, secretly or not without any secret, produced by those companies. They want to promote it, and there's nothing like this. No one treats me like human being, and they don't show this breaking their legs and still dancing with a cast on their legs. Nothing like this. So this is really exceptional, I would say, exceptional creature born out of this corporate. The journalist has a big corporate in the back, with the filmmaker soul, and somehow a visionary producer, I would have to say.
But then why won't Chosun also broadcast it? They have channels, right?
Yes, but they don't have a very high rating yet. So but also that channel is specialized in the politics. I'm not sure how political it is. It is political, but I'm waiting for. And even though they broadcast it, they won't pay much.
And these broadcast companies have hidden agendas.
Yes.
I mean, if you come to promote a certain group, which is in a way a promotion of a kind of music, they say, well, we have contracts with other publishing companies who publish music, and they say, if you do this, we won't come with other films of that. So there's so much competition if it comes to films including music, where music is the core of your story.
Yes, that's always the case.
Yeah.
Do you think your participation in the film, in the post-production, somehow affected, the original vision, finishing the film and having a difficult time selling it? Do you think he was a producer? Because your relationship with your director in this film became very interesting. And do you think your vision as a producer affected the,
Definitely.
the decision of
Definitely.
the broadcasting company? And
Well, I'm not sure the decision of the broadcasting company, but I'm sure that experience definitely influenced the life of the director. And he's now reconsidering his job.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, he want to live a life as a filmmaker, and this was for him the once in a lifetime experience, and for the first time in his life. Now he is in New York. He's now giving the autographs of his book and with the screening of this film, and he's now enjoying this life as a filmmaker.
I was curious with the girl after the film. Are they getting that bigger? And
Last summer they
the
were doing.
impact of this film to them.
Well, we can do it tomorrow, not tomorrow on Saturday. Well, I can give you a little hint. 6. We started shooting 11 people, and 9 of them will be in the team, and 2 of them to be excluded at the end, and only 6 out of 11 remained in the team now. And they did okay hit last summer, and they staged this, and some of them appear on TV, and perhaps because of this movie, actually the main character of this movie, not necessarily the main member of the band. Now people call her. She is the soul of 9 Muses.
So at the end, they love you, make it you make the documentary of the at the end. The girls, they like. They thanks to you that you make a documentary of them.
Well, it's mixed. Yeah, that's an interesting point as well. The company, they have a hard time. They are indecisive about this. They see definitely there is attention from international K-pop fans because of this movie. But at the same time, they are afraid to show this harsh reality that might affect their public image as an entertainment management company. So I'm still trying to bring them, because now we are going to have a theatrical release in June. Wow, 1.5 years since our completion of the movie.
In June
And
in Korea.
but they are not always cooperative, and they just kind of accept the fact that now this is, unavoidable. They have to work with us, but it's very hard still for them.
But I think, may I add something to the distribution of these kind of films? Now that you have a library, a lot of people offer package deals. So what they say, for example, 20 Feet from Stardom was made out of a package deal. So the director started with the idea of, we got 2 feature films out of which we have made money out, and now we have this music film, and we offer it as an extra. So if you sell your one of your films of your library, you can say, okay, you can have it for this kind of money, including that film. So you can make deals in a package. That's a possibility for selling.
In fact, my Korean distributor is doing that. They are supposed to provide 4 films, and one of them somehow has a problem. It's called IPTV channel. You can watch on a smart TV, right? It works like internet. Also, it works like TV, but video on demand. And that guy had a deal. The distributor had a deal with one of those VOD providers. And because one film has a problem, now this film has a chance to be on that channel. So it's a package deal, yeah.
Can I ask, I think I missed your point before about the difference between distributor and sales agent.
Yes.
Can you explain?
This film, Nine Muses, we don't have sales agent, actually. I tried. There are several sales agents who approached me when we were in the competition. They were, I love this film, we want to work with you. But when they realized that it's not, of course they always try before they even sign a contract. They always kind of, make a measurement whether they can make some money out of this or not. And one of the sales agents, we are discussing and we are actually negotiating over the percentage. And of course, I'm always playing hard. I'm negotiating, and I'm not going to give a lot of percentage for selling my film. And then after several months, weeks, they said, our catalog is already full. But what happened in between? They tried some broadcasters and they heard some negative answers. So and now I'm still not losing my hope. I'm still talking to one sales agent who is specialized in music film.
How about distributor, and what is their role of distributor?
Basically, of course, some sales agents, they have their own distribution label as well. Some sales agents, I don't know, some have their even small cinemas. But basic difference is sales agent is not. They rarely give minimum guarantees. Sometimes they do, but now I think this is very rare. Almost no sales agents give any minimum guarantee to documentaries nowadays. But distributors, when they sign the contract, whether they sign contract directly with the producer or with sales agents, they normally give minimum guarantee and they buy certain rights in certain territory. So, many of Snails, we have a sales agent who is cat and dogs. They are taking care of the world, basically, but they cannot really cover the US market. So they have their US arm, which is Cinema Guild. Is it Cinema Guild? Probably, yeah. And they gave the minimum guarantee to us through sales agent. And the sales agent took a certain percentage and she take care of all this accountings and all the paperwork. And this Cinema Guild has the whole right. And he will not give any money until their profit exceed the minimum guarantee. And yeah, I hope, but yeah. And also we have a UK distributor who bought this right from me through the sales agent, which is DocNet. And we have a Japanese sales agent who I love the most because the film is still in the cinema. They have one small cinema with a 50 seat in Tokyo, another 50 seat cinema in Osaka, another 70, 80 in Hokkaido. That kind of long-term, small, sustainable, in my opinion. Because documentary, you need to give enough time for the audiences. It's not like a blockbuster that you do massive promotion in 1 week and then you expect to see 1,000 people in the cinema. No.
Well, this film will make you rich in 20 years. Then the babies of the singers, of these beautiful girls, will be 20 years completely frustrated. And you just interview them about the former life of their mothers, and then you can make your
9 grannies of Star Empire. Yeah. Any more questions? If not, maybe I want to show you just one short trailer of the next movie, which will be finished very soon. Whereas just before I came, I was working with the same Lebanese editor in Seoul, and I got a phone call from my bank when I sent some money to him to Lebanon, and then I got a phone call from my bank in Korea. Hey, the money that you sent, $5,000, which is a part of his editor's fee, is hanging in the US somewhere. Why? And where there's a US authority, they want you to clarify the purpose of this transfer. Why? Well, the name of the editor, it sounds very similar to one of those terrorists. And the guy, he's an editor, and the money is actually from Sundance, your US organization, and Tribeca. Yeah, well, I'm sorry, but yeah, this is how things work. So anyway, so we are now editing hard, and we are expecting to finish this film in 3 months, and 4 months. And we will try to enter ITFA again with this. Because ITFA has our audiences. Not because I'm not promoting ITFA as the festival that is over every other festival. No. Because they understand our film. We have some fan base there. That's why it's a strategical decision. Anyway, the title of this film is Wind on the Moon. Another poetic and vague title, and the subject is same but different.
일어나. 비가 막 떨어지면은 우리 이렇게 뒤로 피하잖아요. 웃을 때 보셨어요? 진짜 그냥 얼굴이 화가 웃어요. 애기 때부터 그랬어요. 그때 그 이쁜 거죠, 이제.